In 1937, Amelia Earhart and her navigator were thought to have disappeared somewhere over the Pacific Ocean.
But did you know that Amelia Earhart's disappearance remains a puzzling mystery up to this day? Over the years, records of people disappearing have been noted, but here are the 8 strangest disappearances recorded.
Hey guys, it's me again, Nick.
And it's Josh here, and we're from Eventful Insights.
Today we'll travel through time and get to know the different stories of people disappearing that happened under strange circumstances. So, these disappearances stay a mystery.
Are you ready? Let's start.
Before we fully dive into our stories for today, why don't we answer a trivia question first?
Can you guess which King of England had 2 sons that were declared illegitimate and so were later locked into the Tower of London and never seen again? You have 5 seconds to guess the answer.
Time is up. This trivia is actually part of our list, so make sure to watch until the end to know if you got it right.
Now let's start. Number 1, George Mallerie. George Mallerie, an English schoolmaster and experienced mountain climber, honed his skills on challenging routes in the Alps before being enlisted for the first major climbing expedition of Mount Everest in 1921. Unfortunately, adverse weather conditions thwarted the first attempt, and a second try in 1922 ended in tragedy with an avalanche causing the death of 7 porters. Undeterred, Mallerie embarked on a third expedition in 1924. On June 8th, he and fellow climber Andrew Irvine set out for the summit but mysteriously vanished, leaving the world to speculate on the events of that crucial day. It remained unclear whether they had achieved the historic feat of being the first to reach Everest's summit before disappearing. The discovery of Irvine's axe in 1933 at approximately 27,750 feet suggested they likely didn't reach the top and possibly fell to their demise. Mallerie's body was found in 1999 at 26,760 feet, but as of today, Irvine's remains were still undiscovered, and the exact circumstances of their deaths was left unresolved.
It's sad to know that they could not live to tell the world of their great adventure, Josh. Now from Mount Everest, let's move the place of discussion to North Carolina. Number 2, the lost colony of Roanoke. You might have heard of this one. In 1587, a party of 117 individuals, comprising men, women, and children, departed England on a vessel comparable in size to a school bus with the aim of establishing the first enduring settlement on the North American continent for their nation. 2 of the women among them are expecting. Despite the challenges, they successfully endure the 10-week journey, establishing a home on Roanoke Island within an abandoned fort. However, just a month into their new existence, the group faces difficulties and urges their leader, John White, to return to England for essential supplies. Upon his return in 1590, the settlement and its inhabitants had vanished without a trace. The sole remnants were the inscription Croatoan, carved on a fence post, and Crow on a tree. Croatoan referred to both the Native American tribe residing on Roanoke and the contemporary Hatteras Island. Despite various theories emerging and ongoing archaeological investigations, no conclusive evidence has emerged regarding the disappearance of the settlers.
I am indeed familiar with that story, Nick. We actually did a video on the lost colony of Roanoke. You can watch our video about it if you want to know their full story. Now, let's move to the third story on our list, Wallace D Fard. Wallace D Fard, the founder of the Nation of Islam, or the NOI, ascended from being a silk peddler on the streets of Detroit to a preacher and self-proclaimed savior of the African-American community. Serving as the outspoken leader of NOI in Detroit from 1930 to 1934, he had a brief yet impactful tenure, marked by several encounters with the legal system. Despite his significance, there is limited documented biographical information about Fard, and various narratives about his background circulate. While he asserted to have been born in Mecca, FBI findings suggest his birth in New Zealand, followed by a life marked by minor legal transgressions upon arriving in the United States. Fard vanished in 1934. Revered as the prophet and considered the incarnation of Allah by Nation of Islam followers, he is annually commemorated on February 26th as Savior's Day.
Now, let's proceed on our number 4, Ambrose Beer. Ambrose Beer, a writer for newspapers and short stories, gained fame for his satirical column, Prattler, published in various West Coast newspapers like the San Francisco Examiner. Having served in and survived the American Civil War, the details of which he chronicled in his most renowned stories, Bierce went on to marry and raise 3 children. While he continued his career as a newspaper columnist, he also authored numerous novels and short stories, along with The Devil's Dictionary, a book presenting social commentary cleverly disguised as a compilation of dark and witty definitions for commonly known terms. Around 1913, during the Mexican Revolution, Bierce left the United States for Mexico. Following December of that year, no records exist of his whereabouts, sparking numerous theories that have persisted over the past century.
Which story has captured your interest so far? Before we move forward to the 5th story on our list, let's have a question and answer game to test your knowledge.
Which of the 4 individuals is connected to the Roanoke colony disappearance? Is it A, George Mallerie, B, John White, C, Ambrose Beer, or D, Wallace D Fard? You have 5 seconds to comment on your answers below.
And time's up. The correct answer is B, John White.
We're halfway through our list. Let's continue. We got our number 5, King Edward V. King Edward IV and Elizabeth Woodville's firstborn son came into the world while his father was away in Holland. Upon Edward IV's return to the throne, he bestowed upon his son the title of Prince of Wales. However, following the king's death, a contentious dispute arose between the child's maternal and paternal uncles regarding the legitimacy of the marriage between Edward IV and Elizabeth. A court testimony revealed that the deceased King Edward IV had entered into a premarital contract, suggesting that his union with Woodville, the mother of the 2 princes, was not legally valid. In mid-June, Parliament declared their children, including Edward and Richard, illegitimate. This decision coincided with the scheduled time for Edward's coronation. This led to the confinement of Edward V and his brother, Richard, Duke of York, in the Tower of London. The prevailing presumption is that they met a tragic fate, and skeletons discovered in the tower in 1647 are believed to be those of the young princes. Do you remember our trivia question from earlier? That's right, the king in question was King Edward IV. Did you get it right?
Now, here's our number 6. Solomon Northup. Solomon Northup's narrative is one of immense adversity and resilience. Born as a free individual in New York around 1808, Northup was abducted and thrust into slavery in 1841. Enduring a succession of cruel masters, he managed to send letters to his family in 1852. His freedom was legally restored in 1853, leading him to co-author a best-selling memoir, 12 Years a Slave. This catapulted him to national fame, and he delivered lectures across the country. While his kidnappers faced charges and were indicted, the case was dismissed in 1857. Later on, Northup withdrew from the public eye, likely joining the Underground Railroad. The details surrounding his death, including the date and circumstances, remain unknown.
For our 7th story on our list, if you are into gangster movies, then there is a big chance you've heard of this guy, Jimmy Hoffa. Astute, intelligent, and straightforward, Jimmy Hoffa initially worked as a union organizer, ascending to the presidency of the Teamsters, the largest labor union in the United States, by 1958. The Teamsters' activities were widely acknowledged as riddled with corruption. Despite intense pursuit by federal authorities, Hoffa managed to evade them until 1964, when he was incarcerated for jury tampering and numerous other offenses. Even while behind bars, Hoffa appeared to maintain control over Teamster affairs. Released in 1971 on the condition that he stay away from union activities, he disappeared on July 30th, 1975, after visiting a restaurant in suburban Detroit, where he was presumed to have had a meeting with Teamster officials. Hoffa was never seen again and was legally declared presumed dead in 1982. His disappearance remains one of the most compelling mysteries of the 20th century, with a film called The Irishman being made about his disappearance.
Have you watched The Irishman movie? Well, now we're down to the last story on our list, and it's about Raoul Wallenberg. Hailing from a reputable and well-connected Swedish family, Raoul Wallenberg excelled as a student of architecture and later found success as a businessman. Leveraging his family and business ties across Europe, he was enlisted as a special envoy for a significant rescue mission aimed at saving Hungarian Jews in 1944. During the period from March to June of that year, approximately 400,000 Jews had been deported by the Nazis, with the majority sent to the Auschwitz death camp. Wallenberg played a crucial role by distributing documents known as Schutzpass to the Jews in Budapest, persuading Hungarian authorities to recognize these documents as passports. This intervention spared around 15,000 Jews from certain death. In January 1945, Wallenberg was unexpectedly detained by Soviet troops for reasons that remain unclear. The Soviets later asserted that he had died of a heart attack in 1947, but the details surrounding his death and the events following his arrest remain uncertain.
Which of these disappearance stories do you think you can solve if you study more of them? Tell us in the comments below.
If you enjoyed watching this video and want more videos like this, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell to get notified on our next video. Thanks for watching.